Segmental elements such as stress, pitch, juncture, and linkers are language universals. Unlike their being uttered naturally in the mother tongue, without prior training, the suprasegmental elements need to be learned systematically in the target language. Among many other techniques of sentential pronunciation teaching techniques to second language students, exercises with proverbs in the target language can be utilized effectively to acquire natural rhythm and intonation, thus addressing to their interests in traditional wisdom and common sense. Students benefit from proverbs in the target language, along with their grammatical and lexical importance, and can be taught to produce acceptable pronunciation and intonation in their new language. Pronunciation teachers, going one step further from word stress to sentential intonation, by working on a broad transcriptions, may produce a crystal clear pronunciation, contributing to their better communication. Proverbs in the target language may be excellent resource materials for teaching pronunciation, stress, and especially sentence intonation, along with their many other uses in the field of ELT. The broad transcriptions of some English proverbs and IPA symbols featuring primary and secondary stress, pitch, and juncture characteristics with relevant signs, leaving unstressed syllables unmarked and clearly pointing out linkers, can be effectively used to teach applied phonetics and phonology. The teaching and pronunciation and sentential intonation so far has been totally unsuccessful. One of the reasons many earlier practices have failed to improve students' pronunciation is that they consisted of markings only on the prominent stress on certain syllables, such as an apple a day keeps the doctor away, discarding the pitches, the stress variants, and the junctures altogether. On the other hand, with a finer tuning provided by the suprasegmental features in their broad transcription, such items could be better distinguished and more clearly expressed. An apple a day, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now let's see this proverb in its broad phonemic transcription, adding all these relevant segmented elements on it and analyze it. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Because this approach has been ignored and neglected, foreign language students have failed in their effective oral communication and meaning conveying performances. Now let us explore this pitch, stress, juncture, and intonation universals in some English proverbs as they correlate between the modifiers and those modified by their primary and secondary stresses and their linking processes. In a bid to address the attention of the Spanish speakers in the audience, some well-known Spanish proverbs will also be studied here. Following this methodology, learners of the Spanish language will also be able to pronounce, for instance, such Cervantes quotes more effectively to delight Spanish ears in a crystal clear articulation. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you go with and I'll tell you who you are. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. I do hope the participants in this presentation will appreciate the special techniques of pronunciation teaching, specifically that of suprasegmentals in IPA broad transcription showing, supported by all relevant suprasegmental features, both in English and Spanish, demonstrated in their proverbs. What are suprasegmental features and how they are marked in IPA? Suprasegmental features are the phenomena extending beyond a single sound segment, considered to be pitch, stress, and juncture, which collectively form intonation, also to be marked on broad transcription. The elements of intonation, namely juncture and pitch, help to break the stream of sound into manageable groups and give additional clues to meaning by either highlighting particular syllables further or assisting the comprehension of the grammatical or pragmatic function. Suprasegmental features are language universals with their own particularities. The correct use of intonation is an essential feature of communicative competence, and erroneous intonation leads to communication breakdown. Although many teachers consider the pronunciation of individual phonemes as of utmost importance, some of them lack emphasis on the prosodic elements, another term for intonation or suprasegmental features. How are suprasegmental notions marked in IPA? In the connected speech, some particular elements of linking, assimilation, and deletion are essential to make understanding easier for the hearer. Linking is a method of connecting the last sound of one syllable to the first sound of the next, such as left eye, the apple. In assimilation, which is another universal feature of spoken language, one sound adapts to the characteristics of a neighboring sound, such as gubuk, would you? Deletion appears in the form of elision and emphasis in received pronunciation. We can see this in such examples as West Central Anatolia or chocolate, where elision occurs. So does in the omission of initial E in excuse me, that's emphasis. Juncture is a suprasegmental feature that indicates the borders of words and groups of words in speech. The Prague school referred to such elements as boundary signals, neatly summarizing their role. Juncture is a sound quality signaling a pause or pauses. Junctures are defined as perceptible differences in word segmentation. Pause junctures are characterized as the intervals between words and phrases of clauses shown as commas and columns or semicolons, indicated as shorter or longer of such pauses. The punctuation marks do give out indications of which junctures should be used for which punctuation mark. Namely, falling juncture sign corresponding to a period, rising juncture sign corresponding to a question mark, and sustained juncture sign or correspond to a comma, semicolon, column, dash. By word stress or accent, what is meant is a greater loudness, change of pitch or greater syllable length. A distinction here between word stresses, compound word stresses, and sentence stresses must be clearly stated. Because combination of various levels of stresses such as primary, secondary, tertiary, etc. do present special features in sentence intonation where they are expected to coexist harmoniously. As most nouns in English, the stressed syllable appears at the initial position. Verbs tend to have their prominent stressed syllables toward the end. As for the connected speech, the secondary stress occurs several times within the intonation unit, both before and after the tone. Pitch is an element that brings music to intonation. Everyone has a different voice, and in general, men's are lower than women's and children's. Normal conversation moves between middle and high pitch, with low pitch typically signaling the end of an utterance. The extra high level is generally used to express a strong emotion such as surprise, great enthusiasm, or disbelief, and the pitch level is often used in contrastive or emphatic stress. Pitch is the most complex of the suprasegmental elements to apply to utterances, because there are a number of different patterns to consider, as well as the relationship between different types of clauses and punctuation. The falling juncture is used to pinpoint the end of an utterance. The rising juncture shows a question utterance, and the pause juncture shows a sustained terminal break or a level break. The repetitive juncture is used to show the longer period of pause between utterances. Let us review in detail how proverbs are transcribed in IPA symbols. First, we have two examples, one from English and the other from Spanish, to exemplify such suprasegmental features on their IPA broad transcription, detailed analysis. A twig must be bent while it's green. A twig, juncture, must be bent, double juncture, while it's green. Falling juncture. In the former part of the sentence, a twig must be bent. Twig is separated from the rest of the portion. A twig must be bent by a short pause juncture. The group must be bent is preserved intact. The primary stress on must is the prominent position, and bent falls into the secondary status. Between the first and the second part of the sentence, there is a sustained juncture. A twig must be bent while it's green. In the latter part of the sentence, while it's green, while in its portions are connected with a linker, where green is in the prominent position, prominent modifying position, and while remains as the modifiee. Thus they correlate with one another in the reverse order, compared to the former part of the sentence. Twig must be bent. The final falling juncture indicates the ending of the utterance. Now we have another item from Spanish, a famous Spanish proverb, already quoted, with which many of you must be familiar. Dime con quién andas, y te diré quién eres. Tell me with whom you go, I'll tell you who you are. Dime con quién andas, y te diré quién eres. The sentence is basically broken into two, with a comma after quién andas. Dime con quién andas. Thus a repetitive juncture time to represent the long break in between. Dime con quién andas, y te diré quién eres. The first part of the sentence, dime con quién andas, is also split after dime. Dime con quién andas, with a first syllable stress, then a triple stress combination dominated by the quién prominences, that is, con quién andas, having prominence on the word quién, leaving the two neighboring words con and andas in the secondary position. Con quién andas. Con quién andas. The linker ties the last consonant of quién and the first vowel of andas, giving an example of linking in Spanish. Con quién andas. Dime con quién andas, y te diré quién eres. The second part of the sentence, y te diré, is also broken into with a short pause juncture after diré. It falls into the secondary position because re, the feature, always has the prominence in the last syllable in future tense. Diré, it falls into the secondary position, yielding to the strong accented re final, prominent syllable, diré, y te diré. And quién eres. Linkages here between quién and res, while quién is primary prominence, reduces the stress last syllable of eres into secondary stress. The sentence ends with a falling juncture to stop the utterance. Quién eres. Now we have some other English proverbs with their suprasegmental features, marked on IPA broad transcription. A twig must be bent while it's green. Women must have their wills while they live. Women must have their wills while they live, because they make none when they die. You are never too old to learn. A bird in the hand, stop. A bird in the hand is worth. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. A fool may ask more questions in an hour than a wise man can answer in 7 years. He who with the daughter win, must with the mother first begin. A woman's most potent weapon is her tongue, and she never lets it rust. A woman's most potent weapon is her tongue, stop, and she never lets it rest. The pleasure of what we enjoy is lost. The pleasure of what we enjoy is lost by coveting more. Your son is your son till he gets himself a wife, but your daughter is your daughter throughout her life. Your daughter is your daughter throughout her life. You may lead a horse to the water. Stop. Juncture. You may lead a horse to the water. You may lead a horse to the water. Longer stop. You may lead a horse to the water. But you cannot make him drink coffee. So there's a difference between the two. The same applies to all languages in the universe. To honor the host country and the host audience, I would like to quote some Spanish proverbs. Caballo regalado, no le mires el diente. Caballo regalado, no le mires el viento. Al buen entendedor, pocas palabras bastan. Árbol que nace torcido, jamás su tronco endereza. A quien madruga, Dios le ayuda. Barriga llena, corazón contento. Cría huevos y te sacarán los ojos. Del dicho el hacho hay un mucho buen trecho. Es más fácil ver la paja en ojo ajeno, ajo ajeno. Es más fácil ver la paja en ojo ajeno que la abeja en el porquillo. Más vale pájaro en mano, más vale pájaro en mano que cientos volando. Si tu mujer quiere tirarte de un tejado, procura que sea uno bajo. By all means. To conclude my presentation, Proverbs, reflecting the traditional richness of any culture in universal vein, are also valuable materials in the teaching of the lexical, grammatical, and phonetic elements of the target language. Features of oral communication, such as clear articulation and intonation, are essential elements of language students' skill in getting their meaning across efficiently in the L2 environment. Therefore, Proverbs must be taught more often by pronunciation teachers to give them this skill while dealing with the target language's phonetics and speech rhythm, technically speaking, the segmental and suprasegmental structure. Students who are able to use L2 proverbs to the point in their utterances always feel more confident and at home with the culture of the natives they are associated with. As they quote such proverbs, they not only demonstrate their skill to communicate with them, they also appeal to the same universal values cherished by everyone involved as human beings. Identifying one another with all those around us as common citizens of this vast yet small world, we coexist peacefully by loving and understanding one another under the same roof in the same eternal wisdom. What is, I ask you, efficient language teaching for, than if not serving this cause of universal communication in love and understanding? Subsequently, sentence intonation has paralinguistic basis, namely kinesics, proxemics, chronomics. Thus, they are transmitters of cultural elements in a way. On a more personal tone, we raise our voice when we get angry, like, you call this a triple rum? To show respect, brides in Turkey quietly murmur, rather than speaking in ordinary tone, in presence of their in-laws, in a pleading tone. Last but not least, children in Turkey are warned with a stern warning with this statement whenever it is necessary. So here watch the role of grace in this utterance. You must study like your father. You should not be an ass. Or you must study, and like your father, you must not be an ass. Thank you very much for your attention. I am available to
Any questions, please?
ask you
Any
questions,
questions?
enjoy your comments, your contributions.
Yes. This intonation part, especially in relation to this topic, is very common on Turkish TV now. Türkiye, remember those jokes over there? Şerefsizsiniz, şerefsizsiniz.
O çözüm sesini, çözüm sesini.
And proverbs are important when you are teaching another language. And this is, that's very true.
As a resident of London for so many years, what are some of the proverbs that you've been hearing in your own environment?
The first one that comes to my mind is like, take it with a pinch of salt, for
I see.
example.
You must take something. So that means you should not believe everything that you hear. I would take it with a
just
pinch of
take
salt.
no notice of
So
it.
you should not take it with it. So whatever he says, I distrust. You'd like to make a comment, sir, yeah? Okay. Would you like to make a comment?
No, I came late.
It's quite all right.
Yeah, but I got to, I got it. I mean,
What is your favorite proverb that has affected your behaviors and your way of thinking so far? Something that you heard from your parents or your grandparents. Whenever you hear, you think of your loved one
In his own language.
in your own language. What's your mother tongue?
Arabic.
Okay, so
Oh, very
Okay, what is it?
No, I can't remember any.
But there was, then
Okay.
you gave an example of a Spanish proverb,
Right.
which was a crow will,
right.
something
Ah,
like that. That-
okay.
That reminds
Bring
me of
up a crow and it will pick out your eyes.
your eyes.
So that's the sign of ingratitude.
Bestekarda olsun gözüm.
Okay.
Yes.
I will appreciate if you help me to recall this most beautiful Arabic proverb, and I will appreciate if you quote it in the Oriental language. The tradition goes that the most acceptable behavior in the sight of our Maker is our gratitude. Likewise, the most unacceptable and despicable behavior in his sight is our ingratitude. And the Arabic proverb is a monumental example of such ingratitude. The Arabic proverb, as far as I know, it appears in one of the Arabic proverb collections as, break the dish out of which you have eaten. So you eat your food on a plate, but the Arabic proverb says, break it, so that it won't remind you of your gratitude. If a person can have no heavier load than the load of gratitude. So a virtuous person only can take the virtuous act of showing gratitude. Ordinarily, people are most ungrateful, and God hates such an ungrateful attitude. So the Arabic proverb exemplifies it, says, an ungrateful person thinks that he should break the dish, because the dish out of which he has eaten will always remind him of his gratitude. So the best way to deal with the feeling, the load of gratitude, is to destroy any sign of gratitude. So that exists in the listing of Arabic proverbs. I don't know whether that reminds you, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It does make sense. It doesn't mean that the Arabs are ungrateful. It means that the Arabs also detest this behavior of ingratitude. Any other comments?
In Arabic, men dakka dukka. Do you understand this?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what do you say about men dakka dukka?
Okay. He who knocks, he who
He knocks is knocked.
is knocked.
That's the case, okay? So very, very influential. Men dakka dukka
Right.
in Arabic. Any other questions? No more questions? Thank you, Metin Bey.
Appreciate it very much.
Who is the second presenter?